movie fans. Now it's time for the most underrated movies of 2013, at least what I think were the most underappreciated, but this is only going to be a top 10. I think this is a pretty fair list in my opinion. Hopefully you can all agree on this one and all the reasons I have for it. So here we go. Number 10, The Last Stand. Yep, this is obviously the first movie that pretty much brought Arnold Schwarzenegger back to the lead roles of action movies, of course, since he became governor. And, well, of course, it's not the first movie that he was in since he became governor. Of course, he had a cameo appearance in The Expendables 1, and, of course, a longer appearance in Expendables 2, which obviously hinted his return in movie industry. And it's no surprise he's done other movies nowadays, like, of course, The Escape Plan with Sylvester Stallone. But this one, in my opinion, is pretty much his movie right here. I know the plot may seem a little bit predictable, cheesy, but if you're an 80s style action movie fan, well, it's worth checking out at least once. At least as a rental. I mean, come on. Nobody was more badass back in the 80s than Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, except for Sylvester Stallone and Bruce Willis, but that's not the point. This is aimed towards 80s style action movie fans right here. It's got the typical punchlines, which may not seem as catchy, but hey, it's got the car chase scenes, and of course, all the fight scenes, and a lot of silly moments as well. Not that all the other movies didn't have silly moments, if you saw Expendables 1 and 2. But give it a rental. You might enjoy it. He is the sheriff after all. Number 9, Bullet to the Head. Another 80s style action movie, which was pretty underlooked in my opinion. But this one stars, of course, Sylvester Stallone. Rambo, Expendables, you'll enjoy it. The plot seems a little bit simple, and the length is pretty short, and it seems a little bit generic, but, give it a look at least once. You'll enjoy it. I mean, I know the plot seems a little bit generic, as well as the title, of the movie itself, but give it a shot. It's not quite half as bad. Number 8, Insidious Chapter 2. This one actually is better than the first one, but still, it's pretty underrated in my opinion. I was kind of surprised. I mean, it does have a lot of good jump scare moments, and yeah, it's not quite as good as The Conjuring, and why am I comparing? Well, it's because, of course, it's the same director. But, obviously that scared the living shit out of me, and it was regarded as the best horror film of this year. And of course, this one's only PG-13 rated, but that one's R-rated. But this one's got plenty of scare and plenty of entertainment value, and I found myself pretty engaged in the plot, even though I didn't really know what to expect out of it. But I'd give it a look. It's a pretty good horror film. Very underrated, and that's why it made this list. Number 7, Jack the Giant Slayer. Yeah, I know, a lot of people are probably sick of these fairy tale takes, into darker proportions. But I didn't really know what to expect out of this one. The trailer seems okay, not so great, and I knew everything was going to be in CGI, of course, the giants themselves. But actually, the plot wasn't too bad. I mean, yeah, of course, the start of it was a little slow, which is probably, well, the only slow part. But the plot is actually pretty entertaining. I mean, it's not great, but it's definitely not bad either. And of course, I ended up seeing this in IMAX 3D, which was pretty well done for the most part, so I'd give it at least one look. I know they've been showing on HBO a lot too, so give it at least a look. It's not quite as bad. Number 6, Red 2. Yep, of course, the CIA agents are back and ready for more action. And this time around, it's not quite as good. But I've been hearing a lot of criticism about this one. And Christ, who kicks more ass than Bruce Willis, right? No matter how old he is, you still don't screw with this guy. Now, John Malkovich, of course, was my favorite character, and he's still just as funny in this one. And there's so much great action sequences, too. I mean, sure, the plot's not as good as the first one, but, well, that's why I consider it underrated. Of course, there's a couple of scenes which are questionable, and a couple of stereotypes here and there. But come on, it's still as entertaining as you can ask for. A little bit longer than the first, but yeah, a couple of slow parts here and there, but who the hell cares? It's Rent 2. Retired and extremely dangerous, yet they're back again for more action. Number 5, Oz the Great and Powerful. Okay, this is a mixed bag on this one. I can understand. It feels like a Star Wars prequel. It looks like, the plot's not structured well, and feels like an unnecessary prequel. But, of course, it is what it is, people. It's underrated, and it has nice visuals, and if you can get over all that, it's at least watchable once. I mean, Christ. James Franco, in my opinion, he played the part pretty well as the wizard himself. And the visuals were nice to look at if you managed to see this in 3D or IMAX 3D. And yeah, I mean, I knew everything was going to be all CGI, but who the hell cares? Come on. It's refreshing for some parts, and it definitely will at least leave one smile on your face for one part. Number 4, Kick-Ass 2. Yeah, of course, this is another sequel, just like Red 2, that's not quite as good as the first one. And I can understand that. It started out pretty well. Of course, if you saw my review, I said that it didn't start out very well. And, and it just didn't really follow a very consistent plot. Its consistency was lacking, and it went in weird directions during, like, the middle of it. And it had some pretty disgusting R-rated material, which was to be expected, but I think they went a little bit too far around this time. But, who the hell cares? It's still entertaining as hell, and it's still pretty watchable for the most part. But, parents, be cautioned. This is one's not for kids. Number 3, Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. I don't know why this got so many negative reactions, but I could see why it's more of a mixed bag amongst most fans of the novel series, and I can see that it probably is definitely abridged and definitely altered in comparison to its novel counterpart. Yeah, I mean, they did trim down a lot of length in comparison to the first film, but hey, maybe sometimes faster pace and more of a simpler plot is better. But maybe it's too simple. But of course it sets up for the sequel, which I'm sure is yet to come sometime soon, I hope. I mean, Christ, we waited for this one long enough as it is. But give it a watch. It's watchable. Number 2, Now You See Me. Yeah, this is another overlooked movie. I liked it. It was interesting. It was a little bit long, and it's an interesting heist movie about a couple magicians who, of course, steal money from a bank. I thought it was structured pretty well, but then again, it was pretty undercooked, and I guess that's why I consider it underrated. Not a masterpiece, but still fun to watch, despite its long length. And the number 1 most underrated film of this year, in my opinion, don't hate me for this one, The Lone Ranger. I have never heard so many negative reactions out of this one. I mean, wow, that's all I heard. So much panning, so much criticizing. I can understand the Indian, Tonto, played by Johnny Depp. I can understand he seems a little bit racy. And I can understand the plot is not very original. But who the hell cares? I really went into this movie thinking it was going to suck, with very low expectations. But I really couldn't hate this one. It was incredibly entertaining. I mean, if you love Pirates of the Caribbean, which coincidentally is directed by the same guy who did the first 3, it's pretty much like that, only in the Old West. And I just love those Western-style theming movies. Yeah, it's silly, but so are those films. I mean, Christ, what do you really expect? Indiana Jones is silly. I mean, and people criticize those to death nowadays. I mean, people just need to shut up and just enjoy some good quality action entertainment. It's not like you're going to get much of it anymore. I mean, I felt like I was just watching a regular Saturday matinee type movie. Just entertainment. You gotta really pretty much clear your mind and just enjoy some mindless entertainment in action and some good silly slapstick humor. So, those are my top 10 of what I think the most underrated are. Please refrain from, like I said, from leaving any negative comments. Till next time, keep watching.
Get